Hello everyone, this is Bruce from Kraken Gypsies, and today we'll be playing Miss Fortune's 2-star campaign. As you can see, we have Miss Fortune at level 8. The campaign is called Following the Wind. It's recommended for 2 stars. It has the special rules of Death is like the wind. When the player plays their first unit each round, stun it. And the rewards we get are Tempest Blade, Fragments, and 3,000 legend points. And we'll begin our adventure. And here we have our first power. We have to choose between New Student, Bouncing Blades, and Crush. Considering what we know about Miss Fortune, Blade's Edge with Bouncing Blades would be good, as well as Crush to give allies Overwhelm. We'll be going for Bouncing Blades this time around, and we'll go into the Sparring Student, which has Practice Motions as a power. Practice Motions is when a unit is summoned, give its weakest ally +1/+1 this round. We do have Luden's Tempest on Miss Fortune, and that is to help her buff up her skill. We'll be replacing the Slippery Wave Rider here, and we'll be continuing with this hand. To make the most out of Miss Fortune's plunder, what we're going to do before we attack is we will be using Blade's Edge on their Nexus. We're taking a risk here by taking 4 damage. However, we buff up our Jagged Butcher for next turn. And we end the round there. Here we'll drop down Miss Fortune. And she'll get stunned, of course, because of Death is like the wind. And what we'll do here is we'll attack with the Powder Monkey, and only the Powder Monkey.
Boss said so.
And this will guarantee that we start to get the level up from Miss Fortune, and we get some damage off on their Nexus as well. Since they have a couple of weaker units that only have 2 health, we'll be using Make It Rain here before we do anything else. And that helps us control the board by clearing 2 additional units. And we'll be blocking with the Jagged Butcher, which gets rid of their Navori Highwayman. Here we'll drop down our other Jagged Butcher, and then finish this round out by using Blade's Edge on their Nexus. Following this will take us to our attack turn. We have enough damage to end this match, and we'll try to do so promptly. And we'll finish up by using Blade's Edge on their Nexus just for even more overkill damage. Here you can see, thanks to Luden's Tempest, we're making a lot of our spells stronger,
I'm the captain.
which will help us end faster. Out of these cards, we have the Smooth Soloist, the Kelp Maidens, and the Shimmering Mirage. Unfortunately for us, our Miss Fortune's only level 8, so none of these come with items. What we'll be picking is the Shimmering Mirage, thankfully due to its ephemeral and its draw. And now we go into the Reinforcement Champions. We have to choose between Anivia, Lee Sin, and Swain. Swain is good for Miss Fortune, so we may just go with this. And next, we have the choice between the Solitary Monk and the Scribe of Sorrows. And to get to those, we'll have to either beat the Shadow Assassin or the Stalking Wolf. I believe the Stalking Wolf is the easier node to go up against, but we'll try to go up against the Shadow Assassin anyway. We also have another option here if we are able to defeat the Shadow Assassin, and that's to take the healing node above it. Out of this hand, we'll be replacing Swain, and we'll be keeping the rest of our hand. We'll be immediately dropping down the Imperial Demolitionist.
Remember the objectives.
And we'll be ending the round there. Here we'll drop down Misfortune.
Nothing but powder monkeys.
And now we'll be attacking with the Powder Monkey. And we'll commit to this attack. Thanks to Misfortune, her Love Tap is also going to do additional damage to the Nexus.
Ready, willing, and learn.
We do have 4 mana here, and what we can do is we can use Make It Rain immediately to imply more control over the board, just like we did last match.
All in the shoulders.
They do use Blade Dance here, though. And what we can do is we can use the Imperial Demolitionist to block. And the reason for this is because if they decide to attack with either of their other units, the Imperial Demolitionist is still useful and will still take a unit with them. Here we have 2 options. We can either drop down the Jagged Butcher and Blade's Edge, or use Monkey Business. I believe what we'll be doing is dropping down the Jagged Butcher.
Without me.
Due to their power,
Watch me now.
it won't be able to block. However, I can use the Imperial Demolitionist as well as Blade's Edge to get rid of their attackers.
And hold.
Was all just talk.
And we'll end the round there. We could have spared our unit by using Misfortune to block. However, I want to keep her at highest health as possible just in case anything happens. Here, we'll drop down the Island Navigator,
Whispers her secrets.
which will help us get unit advantage.
And hold it.
And we'll use Blade's Edge here on the Scales of the Dragon before we commit to an attack. They don't seem to have any 1-cost cards to use, or any 2-cost spells. So we'll be committing an attack with our Scout Fleet Feather Tracker, and utilizing Misfortune's Love Tap. And here we'll be attacking with all of our available units. And that should finish off this encounter.
Fortune smiles.
From the Shadow Assassin, we are to choose of 3 rewards. Either the Plunder Poro, which has Locket of the Iron Solari, Razor Scale Hunter, which has Overwhelm, or Petty Officer with Quick Strike Blade. Considering Petty Officer doesn't have Quick Attack, us having Quick Strike Blade on it might be detrimental and hurt us in the long run. However, the Razor Scale Hunter with Overwhelm would be very useful since it does have Scout. And from here, if we choose to go for the healing node, we're forced to go up against the Zephyr Sage, and it has the powers Memories Multiplied. On the round start, the foe creates an exact fleeting copy of the least expensive unit in their hand. Alternatively, we can go through the Scribe of Sorrows and go into the Poro Sled. And they have Mush, a power that lets them summon a random 1-cost Poro whenever they attack. We'll be going for the healer node here just to play more defensive, and into the Zephyr Sage. And out of the Zephyr Sage, we either have the choice between an item chest or a shop. We'll be keeping this hand as it has a lot of low-cost units in it, as well as spells. We'll be dropping down Hard Gun,
Who's on top of the bounty board today?
and we'll be attacking with Powder Monkey. Lucky for us, we were able to draw Misfortune, and we'll end the round there.
You'll thank me later.
They do drop down another Inspiring Mentor here. What we can do is we can make it rain, and that will get rid of all the units, as well as dealing some damage to the Nexus. Fantastic board control.
Training is unconventional.
And here, we'll be using Blade's Edge to get rid of their last unit, preventing them from attacking this round.
My sweet button.
And we end the round there. We have the choices between dropping down the Island Navigator to have an additional scout unit, or to drop down Misfortune, which will be stunned. Alternatively, we could also save the mana and use Make It Rain or Blade's Edge. We can still use Blade's Edge though if we use Misfortune, so I believe that's what we'll do. She of course gets stunned by their power.
Hey there, little one.
However, what we can do is we can use Blade's Edge to get rid of the Inspiring Mentor, but if we do, they'll summon another Inspiring Mentor that's even stronger than that one. So what we can do is we can attack with both of our units. The Powder Monkey will die anyways because it's a Permeal,
This isn't part of the training.
and we'll be attacking accordingly.
You'll thank me later.
And since they were able to drop down their next Inspiring Mentor, what we can do is either use the Jagged Butcher, which will have the Plunder effect activated, or we can use Blade's Edge and stop it from having a unit advantage.
My sweet button.
And they end the round there, and so will we. They drop down a 7/4 Jeweled Protector, and this is kind of concerning. So, since Ravenous Flock deals 5 damage to a unit if it's damaged, what we can do is we can utilize Blade's Edge to deal damage to it before we commit our Ravenous Flock. And they committed the Jeweled Protector to an attack too, so they're not able to attack us again this turn. Here we'll be dropping down the Imperial Demolitionist and dealing 2 damage to our Hard Gun.
They'll burn.
And this lets us do damage to their Nexus.
The few
This
for
is
the
important because we plan on using the Plunder effect from the Jagged Butcher now to buff it.
of killing left.
And this will benefit our attack turn. And here, we have enough damage to end, so we'll be trying to do that immediately. And we'll be using Blade's Edge on top of Make It Rain just to guarantee this. Since Bilgewater has a ton of damaging skills, I believe having Luden's Tempest is great.
That's why I'm the captain.
They also have a lot of damaging spells as well. And here we get the rewards from the Zephyr Sage. We have to choose between the Razor Scale Hunter with studded leather, Parley with Poro Snacks, or the Abyssal Guard with Farsight Alteration. Since we are using spells, pretty much everything is viable for us. Although I believe us buffing the Razor Scale Hunter would be beneficial. However, that would mean there's going to be 2 additional copies of it, which will pollute our deck even further. And given it is a higher cost unit, we're not too sure if we want to go for it. So instead we'll go for Parley, which will help us control the board better. And here we have to make the decision. Do we want to buff Misfortune or Swain? Or do we want to go for the shop? Frankly, I believe Misfortune's doing everything that I need her to do, so we'll be going for the shop instead. So we have Duelist, and Duelist gets negated if we only summon 1 unit per round, so there's no point in us going for that power. However, we do have Engard, which functions similarly, and for a lower cost. We also have Pow Pow with Mage's Handbook, which will help us tremendously, I believe. We have Shark Trainer, which is a high cost card that has Philosopher's Stone on it. We have Bilge Rat Rascal, which has Chain Vest. We have Thermogenic Beam, which has Elixir of Skill. And then we have Jailbreak with Hand Sensor. Jailbreak is great, and you see a lot of Bilgewater nodes in Path of Champions utilize Jailbreak, so we'll be taking 2 with us, and we'll be taking 2 of Pow Pow. Having more spells, again, helps us control the board. And now we go into the healing node before the mini-boss. And we'll be looking through things to see if there's anything that we want to cut. Personally, I would cut the Slippery Wave Rider. Mostly because we aren't really using it. Alternatively, we could cut the Monster Harpoon. However, with its Plunder effect, it will still only cost 4. And we are using 4 cost things. So perhaps we'll just heal and move on to the next encounter, which will be Ashe with Creeping Chill.
I'll lead the way.
Ashe's Creeping Chill has a round start where she frostbites the strongest unit on our side. That, coupled with being stunned whenever we summon a unit, means they have excellent board control against us. And Freljord also offers more board control in the form of Frostbite. They drop down to Lonely Poro, and what we can do immediately is use Parley against it. And that helps us create board control, and also gives us a Poro as well to work with. What we can do here is use Jailbreak early to make the most out of the hand sensor. And we can eat the 1 damage. Since it is a mini boss, we'll be healed to full health after this. We do have 3 mana, so what we're going to do is use Misfortune this round.
Hey there,
And we'll be
little
attacking with the Powder Monkey, as well as the Sinister Poro, as well as our Tentacle. And we'll commit to this attack.
one. Mwah.
They decided not to block, but to drop down 2 additional Plucky Poros.
Faster than my arrow?
Here they do drop down Ashe. However, what we can do is we can use Blade's Edge to get rid of one of the Poros. And doing that reduces the cost of Pow Pow by 1.
Show me a target.
They do decide to attack with Ashe, and here we'll be using Pow Pow to get rid of her. Pow Pow is indeed a quick attack. And
I
we'll
know
be
what I'm
blocking
doing.
both of their units with our units that have more health, that way we don't lose them. And we'll drop down the Hired Gun,
You're cute when you're armed.
Firepower's always in style.
which grants our Plucky Poro vulnerable. Here we'll drop down Swain, and Swain will immediately level up.
Empire above all!
He does have a fantastic level up
Fear the
animation.
power you do not see.
However, he does get stunned this turn. And they do use Shatter on their hard gun, which gets rid of her. However, we still have unit advantage, so we'll be utilizing that to attack this turn. And we'll use the vulnerable to take out the Plucky Poro. And since we have Love Tap,
Love
we'll be
ya.
able to destroy any other battling units, since it'll hit for 2.
I'll lead us to victory.
However, they do drop an Ashe down this round.
All the world on one arrow.
And then they decided to pass. They drop down an Alpha Wildclaw, and we only have 6 mana here, so what we can do, we can use Blade's Edge on their Nexus, and we'll commit to that.
I will break them.
We're relying on Monster Harpoon to take out Ashe here. And since we did non-combat damage to the enemy Nexus, we were able to stun the Alpha Wildclaw and completely ignoring their attack. And we'll choose to pass here. Here, once again, we'll try to utilize Swain's power and use Blade's Edge on their Nexus.
Such little lies.
And this stuns their Alpha Wildclaw. However, they do use Crystal Arrow. And Crystal Arrow frostbites all of our units, which prevents us from attacking for the most part this turn. We'll drop down Monkey Business, I believe.
Our strength is yours.
And we'll attack with it as well, with both of our Powder Monkeys. As even if we attack with something that's going to die, we still get Misfortune's power to activate.
Homeland.
And we can also use Swain's Ravenous Flock here as well to do damage to their Alpha Wildclaw. Alternatively, we can wait for this
Bleed
attack to be
for
done,
Noxus.
and then we can take out their
I
Hearthguard
will
too.
break them.
However, we can take out their Hearthguard with Parley, and that's what we'll do here.
Such little lives.
And that gives us another unit as well to play with. And we could end here by dropping down the Imperial Demolitionist. We'll be replacing a Tentacle and dealing 2 to an ally.
For the
It doesn't matter
Empire.
which ally we do
Few
2
for
to.
many.
The Black Powder Grenade from the
For the
Imperial
glory of
Demolitionist
Noxus.
will do damage to the Nexus, and this will finish the encounter.
That's how we do things in Bilgewater.
And now we get the rewards from Ashe. We can choose between Mana Deposit, Speed Wraps, or Quick Attack, or Pickaxe for Swain or Misfortune. What we'll be going with is Mana Deposit on Misfortune, since she does have a lot of lower cost units. And now we go into the power. We have the choice between Battlefield Training, which will grant our weakest ally 1/1 whenever the round starts, Overprepared, which creates a random equipment in hand and it costs 2 less, or Reset, which creates 3 chrono breaks in our deck. We'll be going with Reset to utilize the rally that's on it, and we can also play more aggressive if we have this in hand. We have the choice between going up against a Yeti Yearling with Angry Yetis. When the foe's Yetis die, create an Enraged Yeti in the top 3 cards of the foe's deck and grant Yetis everywhere 1/1. Or Zenea Steel Crescendo with Final Dance power. The foe's blades have Nexus Strike reduce the cost of allied Zenea Steel Crescendos everywhere by 1. We'll be going up against this instead. The Yetis scale tremendously, and even if they have the cost reduction on the Steel Crescendo, it also has a champion chest behind it. And at this point, we can go for champion chests, since we do have Mana Deposit on Misfortune. And here, we'll be replacing the majority of our hand, both the Slippery Wave Rider and the Monster Harpoon, since we do not need it early. Us having Swain early is okay. It's not going to be detrimental in my opinion. However, we currently don't have a weaker unit to play on our turn. On the bright side, we do have a Powder Monkey, and this will work just fine, nonetheless. And we'll be using Blade's Edge alongside our Powder Monkey to deal damage to their Nexus.
All in the shoulders.
Unfortunately for us, they do Blade Dance here, and that reduces the cost of Zanea by 1.
Watch me now.
Here we can use our Blade's Edge. However, it won't take out their Ribbon Dancer, and so we'll just resolve and take the damage. Here we can drop down a Petty Officer, and we'll choose to summon a random 1-cost follower, just in case they use Blade's Edge. And we'll end the round there, keeping our 1 spell mana. Now it's turn 4. What we'll be doing is dropping down another Petty Officer here, and with another summon a random 1-cost follower.
Dark times come and go. We play on.
They drop down a Field Musician, and what we can do is we can attack with the Mage
Time
Seeker
to get
Conservator,
my hands
as well as the
dirty.
Powder Monkey. And if we choose to, we can attack with the Petty Officer as well, taking out their Ribbon Dancer. And at this rate, we might as well attack with Yeoman Hawk as well, to get more Nexus damage.
Breathing.
And we'll be losing 2 of our units and taking 1 of theirs with us, alongside doing Nexus damage to them. And we'll end the round there, retaining 2 spell mana.
May my steps and my heart be light as air.
They do use Blossoming Blade, which Blade dances to. We'll be using the Mage Seeker Conservator
You'll go no
and a
farther.
Blade's Edge to get rid of both of the blades.
Contain magic.
Here, we'll drop down Swain,
Born a patrician, I became a soldier.
and we'll be using Ravenous Flock on their only attacking unit to skip this attack.
After the battle, the ravens feast.
And we'll be passing since we don't have any more spell mana. Here, what we can do is we can drop down the Hired Gun, which
Get
will give
bloody,
the
get
Blossoming
paid.
Blade vulnerable. They do recall Swain and use Blade Dance, which we can't do much about. We'll resolve and allow them to do that. They do drop a Blade Dance down, and what we can do is we can use Blade's Edge on it, which will get rid of the blade. And now we'll drop down Misfortune, since we only have 3 mana left. We'll get our mana back,
Hey there, little one.
and they drop down a Swole Squirrel. However, thanks to Misfortune being a 3-cost, what we can do is use Shimmering Mirage, and now we have a spell loop of creating Ephemeral Misfortunes. We'll be attacking with all of our units, and we'll be using the Vulnerable off of Blossoming Blade to challenge, and we'll attack accordingly.
Mwah. Hell of a day.
If they did block us, we do have Chrono Breaks to use, and since Chrono Break would revive Misfortune, we would get all of our mana
That's
back.
why I'm the captain.
Here we have the battle rewards from Zanea. We can choose between Make It Rain, Noxian Guillotine, and Monkey Idol. A Noxian Guillotine will be able to control the board very easily for us, and it is also a 3-cost spell, which works wonders with Misfortune. We have the choice between Locket of the Iron Solari, Radiant Plate Armor, and Chain Vest for our 2 champions. We'll be re-rolling and trying to get Vampiric Scepter for Misfortune. And the reason why we want it is so whenever we use her, And if we can create the same spell loop we did from the last match, we'll have infinite Nexus health. So long as we have cards to back us up. We'll also be going for a warning shot here, as is a 0 cost spell that's going to deal 2 if we have Misfortune on the board. And we'll be leaving. So here we have the choice between going up against Yasuo with Treetop Ambush. On their round start, they give their strongest unit Challenger and the weakest unit Elusive. Or we can go up against the Pharaoh Mystic, and their round start is they get a Mana Gem. Behind them is another champion item chest, and behind Yasuo is a shop. So what we'll be going up against is the Pharaoh Mystic in the attempt to get another champion item chest. This is a pretty good hand, however, we'll be replacing the Slippery Wave Rider. And we were able to pick up welcome gifts. So we'll be able to get a bunch of random keywords on our units if we spam units. They do start with the attack token, and that's okay.
Voices howl from the mountains.
We only have 2 mana on turn 1, so almost no matter what, we'll be taking damage here. So what we can do is we can use Blade's Edge on their Nexus. And the reason why we'd want to do that, and we have to trade 3 damage as well to do this, but we'll be dropping down the Jagged Butcher. Of course, since it's our first unit played this round, it does get stunned. And so I didn't play it first, because it wouldn't be able to block the Pharaoh Mystic either way. And unfortunately for us, our Powder Monkey comes with Regeneration, which is very useless. However, we have 2 choices here. We can use Blade's Edge on the Pharaoh Mystic if it blocks. Or, we can drop down the Hired Gun and give it vulnerable and force it to go up against our Powder Monkey.
The bounty board today.
Teeth big as tombstones.
And now we can use Blade's Edge as well on it, which will take out the Pharaoh Mystic unless they buff it. Fortunately for us, we are able to draw Misfortune. And we'll end the round there.
Warm hots and hot soup. No time for soup. We've got to move.
What we can do here is we can drop down Misfortune, leaving us with 1 mana left. However, we heal our Nexus 3, which means we only have to block 1 of them.
What's that you got there?
We'll be doing just that, and we'll be using Blade's Edge on their Nexus as well. Both Misfortune and Hired Gun had Augment, which I wasn't paying attention to. I could have utilized that to use Hired Gun to take out the Babbling Blurg. However, I didn't realize in time. What we can do instead is drop down our Jagged Butcher, which will allow us to have unit advantage. And we'll drop down the Hired Gun as well.
You're cute when you're armed. Firepower's always in style.
And we'll end the round there. We do have 5 units on the board. What we'll be doing first is using Shimmering Mirage and copying Misfortune. And when doing so, that allows us to have full mana once again. So we can use Blade's Edge after we're done attacking. And how we're going to do this attack is very simple. We're going to use all of our units here to attack, and we'll be challenging the vulnerable Babbling Blurg with our Misfortune. And we'll be committing to this attack, dealing quite a nice amount of damage to their Nexus.
Mwah.
And we take out both of their remaining units. However, they do have 10 spell mana. They do use it that stairs, and unfortunately for us, we do not have Chrono Break. So we do lose quite a few of our units. However, we do have Misfortune once again,
Looking for trouble?
and that will heal our Nexus back to full health. And we can also drop down Swain, which will automatically level up.
Victory awaits! Born a patrician, I became a soldier.
And they decide to end the round there instead of... Well, actually, they don't have anything else that they could have done, so they're forced to end the round there. They immediately drop down another It That Stares. We have 3 mana to use Chrono Break here. And what we can also do is use Blade's Edge or Misfortune's Make It Rain. What we can do first is use Blade's Edge on their Nexus. And by doing so, it will stun one of the It That Stares, thanks to Swain being leveled up. And we'll resolve.
Such little lives.
We do, of course, lose 2 of our units in trade of this. However, what we can do now is we can drop down another Misfortune,
No prey.
and that will refill our spell mana. And we can block with
You
any
lack
of our
discipline.
units that we decide, because we do have Chrono Break this time.
Our vision.
Unfortunately for us, we do take some Nexus damage, but it'll all be mitigated real quick by using Chrono Break. Since we summoned a Misfortune, we were able to refill our mana back to near full health, back to near full mana. What we'll be doing here is we'll be using Ravenous Block to take out their stronger It That Stares, since it can block.
After the battle, the ravens feast.
And unless they summon another unit with their 2 mana, they won't be able to do anything here. We'll then follow up with the Imperial Demolitionist, dealing damage to
For
Swain.
the Empire.
The few for the many.
And we'll
I
wrap
will
things up by
break
attacking with
them.
all of our units
Time to make some
and
coin.
finishing this match.
Such little lives. I will break them. Such little lives.
Fortune smiles.
After taking out the Feral Mystic, we have 3 rewards to choose from. We can go for Monster Harpoon that has Grifter's Deck, Blade's Edge that has Charging Sigil, or the Siren that has Philosopher's Stone. We'll be going for Blade's Edge that has the Charging Sigil, as using Misfortune, which has Luden's Tempest, will increase the damage by an additional point. And now we, of course, go into the Champion Item Chest, and we can choose between Vampiric Scepter, Phage, and Great Club for either Misfortune or Swain. Having Overwhelm on Misfortune will be really good for us. However, since she doesn't have all that much attack, we could also go for Phage instead, and give us even more attack. Or we can choose to use our last 2 rerolls, as there's no other nodes that we'll be using rerolls for. And we have the choices here between Giant's Belt, Savage Shield, or Hardy Rations. Savage Shield is okay at best, but we'll be rerolling once more. And we're pretty much back to our original choices here, which didn't really change much. We could go for Vampiric Scepter, which will allow Misfortune to heal our Nexus 6 every time we use her, and she gives us our mana back. This will provide us with innate sustain and a lot of copies of Misfortune, which is perfect for us because that's what we want to draw. And we finally take on the boss, Yasuo.
My destination. Tell you when I get there.
They have the power Gathering Storm. When the foe's unit attacks, stun the weakest unit, and they draw 1. We'll be removing the Razor Scale Hunter and replacing it, and we'll be replacing... Actually, we'll be keeping the rest of our hand. They do start with the attack token here. And so they'll be stunning our unit whenever they attack. If there was a unit for them to stun. What we can do instead is we can use Blade's Edge on one of them. and that reduces their attack.
Boss, get 'em.
We do have more cards in them, and they do have a draw effect, so there is a chance that we can run them out of cards too if this match goes on too long. What we can do is we can drop down Misfortune already, which will heal our Nexus to full as well as give us health back. And here, what we can do is we can use Blade's Edge on Yasuo, as well as make it rain. And that will take out both their units before we attack.
Make it interesting for me.
Was all just talk.
Clear my name.
They don't have any mana, so they aren't able to do anything to us, and we'll be attacking with the Powder Monkey. And before we finish our turn, we'll be using and dropping down the Jagged Butcher to utilize its plunder power.
Hey, Krabby.
That's my resting face.
They drop down the Grimglade duo, and what we can do here is we can use Blade's Edge on it immediately to get rid of it. As we don't have any way in hand to block an elusive unit, aside from using Slippery Wave Rider. Unfortunately for us, they drop down another one, and we're unable to defend ourselves. However, fortunately for us, our Misfortune does have lifesteal. And we're forced to pass, and we'll keep our 3 mana as spell mana. Here, we can drop down Swain, which immediately levels up.
Victory awaits! By my hand will Noxus rise.
They do drop down Yusari, which is another elusive unit. However, what we can do is we can use Shimmering Mirage on Misfortune, and this will give us 3 mana back and lets us draw. And now we could use Parley, which will deal 3 now, since we have 2 Misfortunes to destroy Yusari. And doing so will also stun the Grimglade duo, since we did Nexus damage. They don't have any mana to defend themselves with. And so we can just straight up attack.
Fresh out of mercy.
As you can see, they'll be left with 19 Nexus health unless they decide to do something different.
Mwah.
I will break them. Bleed for Noxus. I will break them.
And so what we can do here is use Blade's Edge to deal 3 more damage to their Nexus.
Such little lives.
And we can drop down the Jagged Butcher.
There's plenty of killing left.
And next round we can finish this by using Blade's Edge once again.
Hope is on the wind.
They do drop down a Windsinger, and they have play recall a unit, and they decided to recall Swain, so what we can do here is just end by using Blade's Edge.
Bleed for Noxus.
I hope you all enjoyed this campaign video.
Smile.
I hope this helps people complete it, or if people found this entertaining. Anyways, I'm Bruce from Kraken Gypsies. We hope everyone enjoyed. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe to us on YouTube and check us out on Twitch. Our link's in the description below. Thank you, and stay Kraken.